Hi, in this video I'm going to show you a simple code as a C# class and a simple shell script you can be writing to actually leverage your builds for a project in Unity. So you can build your game to multiple platforms with one single call. Building your game more often can help you to find issues earlier in the process. That can make it much easier for you to track what's going on, to find out about incompatibilities, and make sure that you're going to have a healthy code, a healthy build in the end. It can also facilitate you to always have in hand some working version of your game, so you can either show it to somebody who is interested, or you can do your tests, or even ask your friends or family to try them out, or make them available as a download in some website. That is always comes handy if you are doing a development process. So let's do it. What we are going to do is to create a folder so we don't touch an existing project. And the name of this folder is going to be utilities. And it doesn't matter the name you prefer. So let's go with utilities for the moment. And in this folder, we're going to create a C# script called build for multiple platforms. And I'm going to call like this because I want to extend this so that the code in here will be able to build for multiple platforms and not only to one. Yeah. All right, so we have the C# script. And now we're going to click twice on it and we have a blank file. We can remove these two in here. We don't need them. And what we're going to do here first is to write a method to build a new game player. And once this method is able to be called, then we're gonna have another method to call the build method once per platform, right? And then after this, we're gonna have a script a bash script or a shell script, one can say, to actually call this method from outside. All right, so first thing, let's write first this method to build for a single platform. We must define a static method that's going to be called build for platform. In this method, we're going to have to provide an array of strings called scenes, which is going to be a list of the scenes of this project, which are the paths inside the assets folder. We'll provide as well a build target, which is going to be called target. We're going to provide a string called platform path, and finally we will provide as well build options, which by default going to be build options.none. We can talk about this later on, but this is important in case you want to have different options per platform. You know, you might have something like a mobile version that has different options than if you have a standalone version or your favorite console, right? Okay, so as you can see, we have some classes in here, and these classes are actually not provided by the default usings that we have added here, the namespace that we have added. So let's add a few more dependencies in here. The first thing we have to add is using Unity editor, and this is actually what going to enable our class here to work with the Unity editor instead of being a runtime. And in order to make sure that this code is not going to spill over to the productive code, we're going to add a directive if Unity editor and close it in here. So that means this code will never be compiled together as the final result. It's just going to be an utility that you use for your compiler before it's actually used uh, in the final build. All right, so now inside this code, we're going to write build player options, build player options, which receives a new build player options instance. And inside it, we're gonna define the scenes as being the provide scenes. We will define the location path name as the provided platform path, but this is not enough because let's say we are calling this method per platform. So let's say you are building for Mac OS, then you would have a path like macOS slash Mac, mygame.app. Or for Windows, you would have, let's say, win64 slash mygame.exe. But in order to keep things separate, it is better if we have a folder called build in order to ensure that all the builds go inside. So let's write something like this: build slash, and we have this string formatter inside in here. So that means this is going to result on something, for example, build slash mac os slash mygame.app or build slash win 10 slash mygame.exe or something like this. You know what I mean. Well, I just found here an issue, so I should never have used this B in capital here, otherwise it would have the same name. So let's fix it, and let's continue our code. The next thing we have to write is to assign the target, and the target defines which platform you want to build to. Let's say OS X, Windows 64, Linux, and so on. iOS, Android, all of them come in here. And we're going to have options in case they are provided. And finally, we're going to call build pipeline dot build player and the build pipeline option. So this is the method that we need, the most important one. This method is going to be called inside, that's why it's not public. So now in order to use this method, we must create an external method that's going to be used from either from the Unity UI or from the command line. So let's write first menu item, which is going to be calling this, and then later on we're going to use the script. All right, so the first thing we have to write is menu item. Let's create a menu called tools, and let's call it my game slash build to multiple platforms. And now inside we'll have a public static method, let's say build for all platforms, which has no argument. And here inside we're gonna call build for platform, and here we're going to provide all the options that we need. And the first thing we're going to have to provide is the scene, which is an array of strings. And these scenes, we can actually call them, go very simple for now, and just write a list in here pointing to assets slash. And in order to know what should we use in here, let's look at the files and find where is our scene. So assets scenes sample scene dot unity. For some reason it's not appearing in here, but okay, not a problem. So let's write scenes slash sample scene unity. Let's double check if that information is correct. So assets scenes sample scene dot unity. All right. So for now, we're gonna have only one scene. Later on, I'm gonna show how to collect this from the build settings instead of writing them one by one. So the first argument is scene. The second one gonna be a platform, which is going to be build, or gonna be the platform target, which is gonna be build target dot. Let's start with OS X, and it could be, I'm gonna write here as a comment, it could be Windows 64 as well, it doesn't matter. And the next one is going to be the path, and in this path we're gonna write Mac OS /mygame.app. And finally, the options don't have to be provided, as this is actually already provided as a default value here. So build platform, the list of the scenes, the build target, in this case for Mac OS X, and finally the path inside build folder. And the final result gonna look like this. You can see in here, you can just replace here the M for capital M, and this is gonna be the result. And once you save this, now one is able to go back to Unity. It's always important to look at the consoles and console log. So here we can see in the line 22, there's a semicolon missing. So let's go back there. So line 22. New, this is incorrect. So let's go back. Standard OS X is also, no, it's actually, no, sorry. This is standalone, and the same goes for this one, standalone OS X. And now it compiled correctly. And now one can see here on the menu, yeah, the record is not adding this the menu to the video, but yeah, trust me, you will be able to see in the menu tools, and inside tools you see build game. And once you click on build to multiple platforms, you'll be able to see the building file. We're finally done, and here I want to show now my project folder, which has a new folder inside, and the new build is called Mac OS, which inside has my game. So in this case, it's a Mac OS application. So here we are, and now one can change the code to actually do the same, but for Windows, for example. Yeah? So one can say Windows Win 10 or /mygame.exe. So when you go to the menu, and click on tools, my game, and go to multiple platforms, you're gonna have all platforms you have defined for, so it can actually build all of them at once. So now, just to finalize, let's write a simple script that's gonna be using the power of this C# code in order to call it from the command line. Let's create a new file, which we are going to save in the build folder as build.sh. In this new file, it's going to be quite simple. The first thing we have to do is to transform this file into an executable, which we're going to be using the most basic shell capability from any Unix-based operating system. This is not the case for Windows, so for Windows you would have to use something like bat, a batch file or something like that. We're gonna add a long variable which gonna point to which is the path, the full path of your binary, and we're gonna call bin, which is literally the same as this, minus quit minus batch mode, which I'm gonna explain in a second. Project path dot dot minus execute method, and here we'll provide the full path to reach the class we just created, and the class is provided in here. The C# compiler is able to actually bypass all this folder structure here and just file the method by providing the class name, the public class name, and the public method. So here we're going to provide the name of the file, which is the name of the class, dot, and the public method that is available in there. As this is a static method, there's no need for an instance. We just provide the two of them, and this should suffice. So by writing this simple script, we are now able to transform this into an executable and then run from the command line. So let's save this file, and now the next step is to open the terminal, and in this terminal we're gonna be going to my folder, in this case lab games / tutorial game, and here you can see we are in the same folder as you can see in the Visual Studio Code structure. Inside we have the folder build. Inside build we have the file build.sh. In Mac, in order to transform this file into an executable, one must run this command line, as you can see here, chmod all plus X. That means all levels of users will have the same privilege in order to execute this file. So once we did this, we can look at it again. You can compare here that the previous version of it had only read and write mode, while the new one has X, as meaning it's executable. So now, by running this script, we must, first I'm gonna run like this, so you see the error. You can see that it complains here, that it was aborted because multiple Unity instances cannot open the same project. So in this case, we will have to close this Unity and now run again. Now one can look at here and see that we still have the folder. It was actually run exactly now. So before you could see that the last build was run on 749, while the new one is actually 759. And now inside Unity, I want to show a last thing, so we make our script here more resilient. All right, so as you can see, we are adding manually and hard-coded the scene names, but let's say one had multiple scenes in here. We want to actually use the probabilities of Unity that someone would have been adding a couple of scenes by using this UI, so that we use exactly the same. We don't want to do it any different than what we have in here, right? So in order to do that, let's write a new method. Instead of writing like this, we'll actually create a new method called static string array, and then let's say collect scenes, or let's call it a different way, scenes from build settings. And inside this method, we're gonna write a new variable, project scenes, which is going to receive the editor build settings dot scenes, and this is literally the same as you see in the UI as I provide here, right? All right, so the editor builds setting scenes, and then here we're gonna list actually let's make a little bit different so we have it a little bit better on our side. So let's create a new list, and this new list will be of a type of editor build settings scene. So the difference is that this is an array, but it's going to be a list. So by having a list, it's a bit easier for us to actually filter out and get the paths from it, because the instance of a scene actually includes more than just the paths, and actually what we need here are just the paths as a list of strings. So we're going to get the new list of this type, receiving the values from here, and then we're going to say var scene paths. Actually, it's not necessary to be a var. You can just say something like this: an array of strings equal to project scenes dot select as you know, as the scene. So let's call it scene dot path to array, and then we return the scene paths. So what this is going to be returning is an array of strings with the paths. So instead of writing like that, we'll be replacing by this. We have to add using system dot link, so that we provide the method select for lists. All right, we can now try again by clicking on Tools, My Game, Build to Multiple Platforms. This time, I'm not going to allow it to run from the beginning to the end, because all we want to see is if the method was called. As you can see, it's been called successfully. So if you see this screen in here, that means that we actually went through what we needed. We had an error building player because build target was unsupported. Oh, right. So that's because we have this standalone.windows 64, and that's probably because this version of Unity is not including support. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't include Windows compiler, as you can see. And that's because I'm usually using this version 3.15f2, which includes the platforms that I built to, but the new one doesn't actually have it in here. That's why we have that error. But that doesn't matter. At this point, we have achieved our goals, and in your case, you're gonna have to install all the platforms you want to support to, and then provide them in here. I'm gonna provide in the description a link to the documentation provided by Unity, and also to the same script, a bit more complete, as a gist in GitHub. That's it. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I wish you the best success on your project. Bye.